How important is this forum, the annual BRIC meeting, to the party in China?
So I think if you go back to 2006, when the BRICS were founded, there was just a huge amount of excitement about these rapidly growing emerging economies. I think now in 2015, as growth prospects for many of the group have faded, some of that excitement has come out. I suspect that for Xi Jinping, at the top of his mind are going to be problems rather closer to home, brittle growth in China's economy heading into the second half, and also, of course, the slump that we've seen in the equity markets in the last 3 weeks.
Well, Tom, you know, I look at this and I look at Andy Z, the acclaimed economist in Asia, quoted by our Jasmine Ying this morning on iron ore. Bring up the commodity chart, Loriana. And Tom Orlik, you know the chart, which is just a massive deflation in inflation-adjusted commodities. Commodities are rolling over. That's got to kill the BRICS, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think a lot of those problems start in China. It was China's real estate boom, the infrastructure boom, and all of the demand that generated for iron ore, which was one of the main drivers of the commodity supercycle. Good news for countries like Brazil and India. Now that China's real estate cycle has turned, the government's trying to shift away from investment. We're seeing the consequences playing out in overcapacity.
I mean, Brendan, I think this is a huge deal. We've got Greece, we've got the Chinese equity markets. The elephant in the room this morning is a rollover in commodities led by iron ore.
Right, of course, and that's all has huge consequences for China, Australia, Brazil. We're going to go to Harsha Subramaniam in Mumbai. I promise I won't make you talk about yoga, Harsha, even though that's what Vladimir Putin wants us to do. Instead, India, thriving democracy, independent central bank, what are they doing in this club? What are they getting out of it?
Well, the BRICS lobby has been, in a sense, it's been led largely by India, Brendan. The fact of the matter remains, BRICS as a concept has been in existence for the last 9 years, yet the irony is they don't do too much business between themselves. Let me throw you two numbers. The BRICS lobby accounts for just 17% of the world trade. India's exports to the BRICS countries is merely $25 billion. That's hardly 8%. What Prime Minister Modi is trying to achieve is to expand business ties between the five nations, and more importantly, try and see if we can get some capital and investments in infrastructure that India desperately needs. The BRICS Bank is an idea that India mooted, and an Indian banker is the president of the new BRICS Bank.
Harsha, Narendra Modi is speaking right now at the summit. Who is his most important potential trading partner? Is it Russia or is it China?
Actually, both, Brendan. India needs Russia for uranium. India's been betting big on nuclear energy, but it doesn't have sufficient reserves of uranium, so it requires President Putin's support. China there's been long-standing relationship between President Xi and Prime Minister Modi. India needs Chinese help to build its infrastructure. It needs the Chinese for investments in the road and power and port sectors, not just in terms of capital, but also execution capabilities. And India and China have been warming up to each other despite neighborhood issues.
Michael Purves with us with Weeden. You've got a U.S.-centric view. It's all great imagery and all the pretty flags look great, but should U.S. investors focus on BRICS or whatever the next BRICS is going to be?
Well, you know, we were just talking about, you know, how much, you know, really correlation on multiple levels exists between these four countries right now. And they're all, sure, they're all important parts of the global economy, but they're all, moving to very different rhythms amongst each other. You know, India's got a, certainly relative to China, much less of an export story, more of a closed economy. Brazil, of course, is a huge exporter of iron ore, as you were just, referencing. And Russia has its own, very specific issues going on, being a country run by Putin. So, it's almost, I wonder whether the BRICS acronym is really that relevant anymore. Sure, they're all big countries, but so is Indonesia, for that matter.
Yeah, that's something that Jim O'Neill himself has wondered out loud, whether or not that acronym still fits. We have Tom Orlik still with us in Beijing. Let's move from Ufa, Russia, down to Shanghai. Tom, the slide in equity markets in China has taken a pause. Problem solved?
Well, certainly the government seems to have managed to arrest the slide in the markets. We saw Shanghai rebounding more than 5% today. I think the bigger question really is, with such massive government intervention, so many shares suspended, so many investors instructed not to sell, what's been the cost of stabilizing the market? Have they stabilized the market but killed the market mechanism in the process?